يا رب إنك مقصودي ومعتمدي.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا. أمن وأفضل علينا إذ بعث فينا رسولا من أنفسنا يتلو علينا آياته ويزكينا ويعلمنا الكتاب والحكمة. سبحانك يا ربنا لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلم السابقين وشفيع المذنبين وقائد الغر المحجلين سيدنا ومولانا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله الغر الميامين وأصحابه جند الدين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وكل من دخل في نقل العلم الشريف وخاصة في نقل القرآن المبين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليهم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك يا ربنا لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا بالقرآن العظيم. اللهم اجعله لنا نورا وإماما وهدى ورحمة. Amma ba'd, dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, we'll carry on, in speaking and highlighting certain points, about this text of Imam al-Nawawi about the etiquette of the people toward Qur'an. And this is, you may consider this chapter as the bulk or the core of the whole thing, the etiquette of the teachers and students of the Qur'an. For sure, all of us, we should look at ourselves as students and teachers of Qur'an all the time. Together, we are teachers and we are students. But this should be more maximized and more remembered whenever you get yourself in any involvement or activity in the Qur'an al-Kareem. This should be done much more. So he subdivided this to many objectives, and we start by one section and another. The first one, the intention of the barriers of the Qur'an. This is as is needed for all matters without exception. It's much more needed for the Islamic or religious actions and deed, because as the Prophet ﷺ said, our deeds, they are going to be according to our intention. And since the Qur'an among the religious deeds it has the top of it, or one of the most important one of it, because the Qur'an get its involvement in all aspects of the Muslim life. That's why we should have this intention. We should remind ourselves about this intention. This intention not similar to the intention for prayer, because the fuqaha, they said, when you have the intention of praying, at the beginning, even though if you have it gone away later on or you forgot it or whatever, your prayer is still valid. But here in Qur'an, at any position, since from your beginning to your end, you are going to get yourself involved in the Holy Qur'an. Whenever you have this intention gone away, or you have some other aim or some purpose, this may compromise and sometimes may vanish the whole thing, for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ الَّذِي آتَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا فَانْسَلَخَ minha. At a certain point, this person who was given the holy verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he just secluded and took himself away of them, And this is make it much more important. If I want to simplify it, when we gather now, we should search about our intention, why we are here, and when we reconvene again after 1 hour, again I'm going to ask myself why I'm here, and you name it, because this should be in a continual or constant manner, in us, because this may be deviated, may be taken away. Some of us, he may be doing something, and his heart, his hopes, his passion, his interest has certain influence on his original intention, to the extent which has been mentioned in the Holy Hadith in Sahih Muslim as narrated by Sayyidina Hudhayfa, even while we are sleeping, you may have something taken away from you. That's why the Prophet ﷺ gave us the lesson, to make zikr of Allah before going to sleep. When you wake up, you remind yourself about the zikr, about these matters, all the time. And this is the difference between the intention here and the intention in the other Islamic deeds, because those others, they are needed, they are commanded, they are obliged on us, in certain time, whereas your relation with Quran is going to be with you in all of your life aspect, and that's why since we got ourselves, involved in these matters, and we have, I'm sorry to tell you, we have a lot of tests, we have a lot of matter to take us away or to drive us away of the Holy Quran. That's why we should be aware of this and be cautious about it, and we should pay our attention to it. Okay, this should be for the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we say the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means I'm not going to look at myself. I'm not going to look at my prestige. I'm not going to look at my position as tired one or a sick one or whatever. I should give priority to what Allah wants from me in this particular time. What's the interest of the Holy Quran in this time to do? And by this, I'm going to disregard myself, completely by this, Even if I am tired, even if I don't feel ready to do it, if this tiredness or sickness is going to compromise my skill, then you may interrupt, okay? But if it's not at only to give yourself, some relief or some free time or whatever, doesn't mean a lot, and you should try to compromise from your side, to keep yourself, updated and ready, for those that matter all the time. So, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, what we call it in Arabic ikhlas, okay? And this ikhlas is sincerity, is as mentioned by in many quotations, it's perhaps the most rare and the most valuable matter, that you search to it in your heart. And then he spoke about keeping the religion pure for him. What do you mean pure for him, We are slaves, we are servants. Deficiencies, short outcoming, anything you may expect from the servant. When you speak about a Lord, you have completely the opposites of all. The purity, the excellence, the greatness, and you name it, okay? We as slaves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored us. This is, we cannot do it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored us that we may have it, done by trying to connect ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is going to purify many of our deficiencies, to take away many of our problems, and this is perhaps, not perhaps, for sure, this is the best position ever any slave can practice in this life, when he connects himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why many of those great occasions, they were titled by the Prophet ﷺ when he said, and all of you, I think you are familiar with this, when he said, Imanan wa ihtisaba. When we say imanan wa ihtisaban, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever he said in this, and ihtisaban, seeking the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by this, as if you have taken away yourself, from yourself, from your surrounding, from your community, and had only the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we said imanan wa ihtisaban. And for sure, as it's applicable for fasting Ramadan and for night prayer in Ramadan and for Laylatul Qadr, which are these three positions, one of the most honorable position for any of us, Again, in the same pattern, it is applicable for you when you try to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by finding your way or your relation with the Holy Quran, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he mentioned the holy verse, Surah Al-Bayyinah, about that they were not ordered except more than to worship God sincerely, keeping religion pure for Him, being upright, to establish the prayer and to give obligatory charity, and that is the worthy religion. Okay, and you should highlight that the last word, the worthy religion, ذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. Okay, meaning the undeviating creed. And the Prophet ﷺ, he narrated this hadith, which Imam Nawawi liked it a lot, that's why he used it in many of his books, and he tend to start his books with them, and you are familiar with this. Since you are familiar with it, I'm going to get the barakah to recite it in Arabic. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. And by this, we should remember this text, because this looked at as a cornerstone, as a base, as a most needed matter. Whenever you want to have any activity toward the Qur'an, since the Qur'an is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should have this intention. We should memorize this hadith all the time, to keep our self, all the time straight, in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he narrated this from Abu al-Qasim Al-Qushayri. This is the famous author, of Tasawwuf. He has this, what we call Risalat al-Qushayri, is one of the famous written book, about Tasawwuf, in Islam. And he defined here the definition of sincerity. We see how great is Imam Nawawi when he seek help, of getting the definition of sincerity to make it well understood to all of us. And here is the definition done by Imam Abu al-Qasim al-Qushayri. Sincerity is to single out the real. The real here means the holy name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Haqq. Why did he use this holy name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Haqq, and not any other name? Because this is the truth. This is your reality. This is your awareness, Other matters, they are subjective, of being fake, being not real, being elusive, and you name it, And that's why he used this holy name. He chose it just to tell you that you should remember this attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the real, the truthful, al-Haqq subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever you search for sincerity, so single out the Allah, al-Haqq, in obedience, with full intention, meaning through obedience. Desires only to draw near to God Most High, nothing else, not ostentation for the sake of others, gaining praise with people, loving praise from them, or something else that shows other than drawing closer to God Most High. And here, this definition, just as you may see it, firstly you have this holy name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Haqq, and this is when you really You try to understand it, is going to take away everything else, from your mind. And by this, you are going to direct your aim, your interest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and taking away many of these matters, These matters, or interest, over the years, they may get too important. Some other years it may get, down. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, we have the people, they are well aware, of the importance of Quran all over Islamic world, And for sure, it has some intention or some attention toward these matters, And unfortunately, many of these people, this is going to astray them, to deviate them, away of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just to show that he is a good reciter of Quran, or this is, he may say even sometimes servant of Quran, And even servant of the Quran, I look at this name, or this description as with real need, of certain categories, You cannot call the one who lie down or sleep all the time as a servant of the Quran. You cannot call the one who give preference to himself, over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a servant of the Quran. You cannot call the one who try to make himself famous, and try to attract people as a servant of the Quran. You cannot call the one who has very smart student, and this student found another teacher who is much better than him, and he felt bad about it, as a servant of the Quran. If you are in the service of the Quran Kareem, you should be happy, whenever you have this person, find another one who is more skillful than you in this regard. He said, Al-Qushayri, it's correct to say that sincerity is purifying the action from being observed by people. Okay? And this is perhaps the most difficult test is given to us. Because generally speaking, we are, all of us, we are governed, in this life by the materialism, by the physical object that we observe all over the place. And nowadays, in this century, we are not that lucky, because in the old days, even the non-believer, they believe a lot, in the spiritual matter and the non-physical. Nowadays, what I observe, I may be wrong, even the Muslims, they became more materialistic, because in this way of civilization that we have nowadays, and the way we learn and the way we teach others, all of those matters has been governed predominantly, by the materialism, which make the person, even though he believe in the non-physical, the unseen, make him weak, in his relation with these matters. And all of us, one day, we are going to move all those materialistic matters, and move to another world, and you should be familiar with these items that we tend to ignore a lot, and be ignorant about them, or illiterate, or you name it, We should train ourselves, to have much better look, to those unseen, those spiritual matters that connect you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, connect you to the holy book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to connect you to the religious matters, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is, I look at it as a training, because when you and me, we are going to move from this world, and we should train ourselves to get used and familiar with the coming world that we are going to move to it, shortly. Hudhayfa al-Mar'ishi, again famous one of those people, he said, sincerity is the worshipper's actions being identical in what is manifest and what is hidden. Just last thing, about the definition before this by Abu al-Qasim, he said, through obedience. And for sure, the word obedience should be used firstly by knowing what you are doing. And if you have the most sincere person and he doesn't know how to pray, sincerity is not good, in that person. So here when he said obedience, that means we have certain rules, we have certain regulation, in our Islam, and we use it. We should use it, Again, if you want to apply it for Quran, the one who loves Quran a lot, this is not enough to be sincere, about Quran. You should learn how to pronounce Quran, how to recite Quran, and how to understand Quran to get the maximum, of this sincerity, as a perfect one. Here, Huzayf al-Mar'ishi touched another point, that you should be from in front of everyone, and when you are left alone, you should be in the same pattern, of observing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we learned in Aqidah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never change, we change, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change. That's mean when I'm in this position, or I'm left alone, secluded in one room, even though the whole setting for me has been changed, but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nothing has been changed. Even though that we look at ourselves, in this time, way down, when we compare this with the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never changed. Okay, so from all of these data, that's mean you should be in the same awareness, in the same direction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this for sure is going to lead you to have the steadfastness of it, which we call it in Arabic al-istiqama. Okay, when you remember all the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never changed, and you should be with Him without any change. And this is highlighted by Sayyidina Huzayf al-Mar'ishi. Zunnun al-Misri radiallahu anhu said, 3 signs of sincerity are when praise and censure from the masses are equal, forgetting to see your involvement in deeds, and wanting reward for one's action in the hereafter. Okay, yani here these are the 3 signs of sincerity, that you don't care if the people condemn you or praise you, because you have nothing to do with people, Your matter is not with people, it's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second point, to completely ignore yourself. And this has been instructed to us by Allah when we said, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You need to remember yourself whenever you are obliged to do something. This is no excuse, to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make me pray or whatever. No, you should try to move. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقُلْ اِعْمَلُوا. Start your action. And the Prophet ﷺ said, اعملوا فكل ميسر لما خلق له. When he was asked about this predesignation, he said that we should work because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to help you and make it easy on you the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you by. And by this, the initiation, it starts from you. But even with this initiation, you should put in mind the second component of it, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Okay. In another word, even though I feel myself moving, but in the same pattern, when for my intention, I took away everything, in my physical matters and what I feel, in the same way, I should take away my feeling about myself. In another word, the most perfect one among us, the one who is really active, and he forget his action. He just remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's support. He did not remember his actions, These are the most perfect one among us. And the third point, not to seek evil reward. Why? Because you are slave. Okay? And the fuqaha, they said the slave doesn't have any salary, When in the old days, when someone buy a slave, and ask him to do this or that, The slave that cannot take his master to court, telling them he did not pay my salary to me, because no salary. Okay, you pay salary to a one who is free of you, you don't possess him. And we are all the possession of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so here, even the reward is not your business. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala matter. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day, he mentioned something, which is too much, for us, but this is mean. He said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to punish me and Isa ibn Maryam, he's not going to be unjust with us at all. And he spoke about two of the most high figures, himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, no one, Allah is the absolute, He may do whatever He wants to do, okay? So this tells you about your sincerity. Is it possible to be rich? And this may be felt, little bit beyond the imagination for some of us. It has been practiced by the Prophet ﷺ because he was told that all of his sins is forgiven, as mentioned in Surah Al-Fatih, yet he still practiced. And the Ashara Mubashirin bil Jannah, even though they were told by the Prophet ﷺ that they are people of heaven, they still practice. Okay, that means these people, they don't wait for reward because they have been given their reward before their action. Ahl Badr is the same, okay? Ahl Badr, they were told, do whatever you want to do. I have forgiven anything for you. So they are not fearful from hellfire. They are fearful from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they don't seek reward. They are purely worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for anything else. Because they have been given everything in our standard, They have been saved of hellfire and they have been rewarded by heaven. So what's left? Everything is left, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said, leaving an action for the sake of others in showing off, acting for the sake of the other, is idolatry. And sincerity is God protecting you from the two. Okay, and here, when you quit doing something, because someone see you, this is, Fudayl ibn Iyad call it in Arabic, riya, as if you are showing yourself to the others. When you try to do something for the sake of other, he can call it as shirk, okay? For sure, this is not the real kufr that considered as making the person go to hellfire, But this is kufr of the ni'mah, this is shirk, real shirk, shirk asghar mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ. This is the minor shirk because you look now for someone else except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for me, I look at this definition, as help a lot, to make yourself well organized, and make yourself, recall yourself all the time, about what you have done, Is this done for this person or the other person or whatever, or this was you refrain doing it because of this person or that one. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save you of both of them, then you are sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sahl al-Tustari rahimahullah ta'ala said, the astute have looked into the meaning of sincerity and have found none other than this, that one's motion and stillness in what is secret and what is public be solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He mixes nothing with it, not ego, nor whim, nothing of this world. So here, the sincerity is that he try to make it, obvious for us in all time when he said moving and in non-movement, stealing, to have both of these positions, and you cannot imagine any human or any creation, without these two matters, That's mean in all times, It's eternal, okay? We call it in Arabic abad, yani forever, okay? To have it, again, he put the second point which was mentioned by Huzayf al-Mar'ashi, yani in secret and in public, and be all to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without mixture. Here we have a problem, okay? Because many of us, they may have the sincere intention, but they mix it, with many other purpose, or you name it, Here, don't think he exaggerates, To be honest with you, when you go back and read some of the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, especially in my mind, when you go to book Targhib al-Tarhib, the first chapter in it about sincerity, such a person like me is going to find myself out of the whole equation, completely, because many of these ahadith, it tells you about not get yourself in your intention, mixing the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with anything else. He gave us an example of it, like ego, like any other things, in this world. Okay? And this is the reality. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ إِذَا تَجَلَّى لِشَيْءٍ خَشَعَ لَهُ. When you have the dominance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala something, everything is going to be put down. And when you have this greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your heart is going to put everything down. Okay, you are not going to care about anything else, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is part of the tradition of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he got exposed to his enemies, and they stoned him, and he has the blood coming from his feet, and when he was left alone, he said, if you are not angry with me, I don't care about them. That's what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Okay, and this is the reality. Even though we may feel indifferent, we may say different, we may deal with it different, but this is the reality of this matter. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Besides this, what has been mentioned, that even any mixture, is going to compromise. Imam al-Ghazali said this one opinion, and there's another opinion that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you by percentage, according to your mixture, And this is for such person like me, is completely, have a lot of problems, in all of his deeds, This is maybe considered as good news for him. But for those people like Sahl ibn Abdullah Tustari, this is of no value. They will throw it away, They don't care about it. As-Sari Saqati, this is the teacher of Sayyidina al-Junayd. He said, don't do anything for the sake of others, and don't abandon anything for their sake. Don't cover anything for them, and don't reveal anything for them. Okay, and here, as mentioned by someone else, consider the others as dead. Okay, and when we are surrounded with dead person, you are not going to cover anything, you are not going to uncover anything, and you are not going to care at all, about these matters. And this is all summarized in one verse in Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara? Did not he know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows? And this is what counts, Everything else doesn't count in this regard. I want to give a comment, Really, I admire Imam now a lot to use those quotations, from those high rank people, And regardless of from what group you are, I feel nowadays, all Muslims without exception, they are in real need of those matters. Not because our Quran and tradition is insufficient for us, no, because we don't understand, we don't get these meanings of the Quran. when you look at these statements, they are completely matching what you know about the Holy Qur'an, or about the tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, or about the statement of the companion. But to be honest with you, a person like me, I cannot understand from the verses, from the tradition of the Prophet, these quotation, that was brought, by these great people, without their help. And that's why I see the major deficiency people they have nowadays as Muslims. The Muslims, they have their major deficiency, that they are well familiar with the Quran, well familiar with the tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, but unfortunately, it's not shown in their practice. Either because they don't know these quotations, or they know it and try to fool themselves. So we are in real need of those matters, of this quotation, to change our look to this life, our look to the money, our look to the fame, our look to our relation, our look to how we should respect each other, and you name it. And these, I look at them as interpretation of those great verses that we have in the Quran, and those great ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. I look at them as interpretation. Even though you may have youngster, 12-year-old or 30. You say, we don't need anything. We have the Quran and Sunnah. Okay. You have spoken about something great. Yes, this is too great. But are you ready, my boy? Are you ready to get all of this information yourself? If you are ready, you are too great. You see, even these people, who are too great and way higher than me, you cannot take one person word and just leave away the others, everyone, shed a light for you from one side. And I'm going to tell about, we have a lot of problems. Perhaps one statement is not enough for us. We need the light to be shed, from different angles and different ways, to help ourselves, in this regard. And we are in real need of this. And I show my high appreciation of the Imam al-Nawawi that he put them here. Al-Qushayri said, the most superior truthfulness is when the secret and public are equal. This is apparently the definition of Imam al-Qushayri. Al-Haris al-Muhasibi said, the truthful one is he who has no concern if the estimation people have for him were to depart from their hearts, so as to maintain the soundness of his own heart. He does not like people inspecting an atom's weight of his excellent actions, but he does not mind people inspecting his evil deeds. If he were to dislike the latter, this would indicate that he loves greater esteem on their part, and this is not the proper behavior of the truthful and trusting saints. I'm not going to explain it. It's quite obvious. I look at it as a rule to judge yourself, whenever you are in need of judging yourself, and you are in need of judging yourself all the time, okay? And to see how is your relation with the other, how do you look at them, how you look at your energy, when you are praised, or when you are put down, or whatever of that regard. I think it's quite obvious. Go back and study it very well, and this is, I found it quite helpful, as a practical point, given to us to recon ourselves, Another said of Haris Muhasibi, if you seek God Most High, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, truthfulness, He would give you a mirror by which you could see every wonder of this world and the next. And this is mentioned in Hadith Sayyidina Haritha, when he was asked by the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, as if I observe the people of heaven and people of hellfire, and as if I observe the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Salaf, they have a lot of those quotations, regarding ikhlas. Okay? And this is, I look at it, one of the most noble matter or cure that we look forward, and the opposite of it is one of our major disease nowadays. That's why we don't feel fed up or full, of these matters. We should keep remembering them all the time and keep collecting much more of them, to find our way to purify our hearts, and our intention. And as the author said, rahimahullah, he referred to some of them. Okay. And he said, he mentioned many of them in Al-Majmu' Sharh Al-Muhazzab, which is another large book of the author, that one is fiqh book. Okay. This is the first section. The other one, not seeking a worldly objective. Again, here to purify your intention, you should have certain steps. One of them, not to look at what we call nowadays the materialism of the matter, that you got yourself involved in it, And this is really, it's too tough and too difficult, to judge yourself according only the non-physical, the unseen, the spiritual matter of it, and try to bypass all of the materialism, in these matters. He gave examples of it: wealth, which is nowadays perhaps the most applicable one; leadership, influence, rising above his peers, gaining people's praise, or drawing their attention to himself. And really, I hate to go quickly, here, but I feel each word of them, we should have a long stand there, we should think about it, not only for Qur'an, for all of our life activities, It's too bad position, for such a person, to think that he's real good man, real sincere man, and real good Muslim practitioner, all of a sudden in the hereafter he will be told, you have done this for this sake, and the other one for that sake, and you name it, and he found himself, as the Prophet ﷺ said, all of a sudden bankrupted, nothing there, nothing left for him, And really, it's tough position to have it as such. And here, the author gave us the major matters that perhaps they are applicable even in our time, about the things that take you away of seeking the pure intention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to repeat them quickly: wealth, leadership, influence, rising above his peers, gaining people's praise, or drawing their attention to himself. But here, he reminded us of a very important point. You don't put down what's given to you. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you skillful in Qur'an, firstly, you should recognize this favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, you shouldn't seek the recognition of the others of it. You see, this is may be felt, and it is too difficult. I'm not telling you it is easy. It is too difficult, but this should be the case. Again, I'm going to speak about it. You feel the value of the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on you in this regard, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the Holy Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you skillful in Qur'an. Okay? You should, and by recognizing this, what we are going to feel from Iyaka wa Iyaka nasta'in, you feel that this is merely a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not because I am smart, not because I am, not because of this or that, not because my father is Shaykh, not because, you see, because any of those given data, you may put it, and you are going to find a person who is much more eligible than you, and he was not given. And this just to tell you that this is merely a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by this, you should have full appreciation and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. In the meanwhile, you try to bury it. Don't let anyone look at this recognition in you. Okay? Sometimes it may work. And really, I'm jealous, of those people, who are they have the great relation with Qur'an, and no one is aware of them, They spend their night, with the Qur'an, enjoy your time, They are not called teacher of Qur'an. No one point their finger, towards them, And I know some of them, I know some of these people, And you have other people, who as they are called, teachers of Qur'an, servants of Qur'an, or whatever, and they don't deserve this at all. Okay, so here, as Sayyidina bin Atallah said, ماذا وجد من فقدك وما الذي فقد من وجدك. When you have it, your matter recognized by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't care about anyone else. When you have it recognized by people but not recognized by Allah, this is a real problem. Okay? And the worst among these people, the one who bypass what does he know about himself and accept the other statement, in this regard. That's why, please, let's help each other. Okay? Usually, we try to praise each other. This is a very good man. This is very excellent teacher, and this is whatever, Those matter of praising each other, generally speaking, it may have some exceptions, but generally speaking, is going to hurt us much more. It's going to make us, firstly, proud of ourselves. Secondly, feel that we have created this in ourselves. And thirdly, seek to have the appreciation from the others. And this is for sure, for such a weak person like me, is not going to leave for him anything. Even if he has the best intention, at the beginning, this is going to explode everything, Everything is going to be taken away. Okay. Again, you see, those opposites, one does not dishonor the teaching of the Qur'an by hoping to obtain some favor by way of an influential student who recites to him, whether the favor is in the form of property or some service, however small, or even a gift that he would not have received had it not been for his student reciting to him. And this is very, very sensitive point, Imam Al-Ghazali said in Ihya, if you receive a gift from a person because he thinks you are scholar and you are not scholar, this is considered as suht. And not only haram, this is one of the worst way of gaining money or gaining something, For sure, I look at you, you are too aware and cautious, about halal food. Okay? What's about this? This is much more important. Imam Al-Ghazali called it suht. When you are given something, because they thought you are so and so, and you are not as such, Imam Al-Ghazali called it suht. Okay, and if you want to get familiar with this word, go back to Qur'an. This has been mentioned in the Qur'an, not mentioned about ordinary people. It was mentioned about those who are educated, those who are knowledgeable, in the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Aklihimus suht. When this has been described in Surah Al-Ma'idah and different verses of Surah Al-Ma'idah, the people who were described as such, not people of dunya, not people who trading all the time. No, those people, they are Rabbaniyun al-Ahbab. Rabbaniyun, I interpret it, those who are good practitioners. They are knowledgeable and good practitioners. Ahbar, those who are knowledgeable but not that good practitioners. You see, both of them, they were condemned, by being described aklihim suht. Okay, يعني even the good and the bad. If you look at the Rabbaniyin as a group of people, and Ahbar as not that good people, and both of them, they were spoiled, by this pattern, Not necessary to be a gift, even a praise. Sometimes, if I'm praised, even though I'm hard worker, you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me, and this is good sign. And I give all reasoning, to make it, work for me. You see, even I'm sincere, I'm too sincere to Allah, and I am hard worker, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the other praise me. This is as an early sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to praise me in the hereafter. And I'm fooling myself. Okay, I'm joking with myself. I'm having fun with myself, okay? Because this is not the case. I should look at it as test from Allah, as a scale from Allah. Am I going to have my heart move a little bit for these words? Okay, and if this is the case, am I going to respond to this by praising the other person? What am I going to do if I'm tough teacher, to make it easy on this one, because I have some benefit from him, and you name it. We have a lot of those matters, which goes on and on. And we fool ourselves. We say, no, we are not as such. We are better than the companion in this matter, Sayyidina al-Khattab was fearful of hypocrisy, but I'm not fearful. I'm quite confident. You see, this is the comparison. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, whoever seeks the harvest of the hereafter, we shall increase his harvest, and whoever seeks the harvest of this world, we shall give him of it here, but in the hereafter he will have no portion. Don't translate it only by wealth or money, because human personality, they have different interests. Some they are interested in money, the others in fame, the third in having good position, the third in being praised, the fourth to be well recognized by many people. All of those matters. Or if I want to put it, in another way, all matters which doesn't fit with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you consider it as dunya matter. And by this, is going to be included in the second portion of this holy verse of the Holy Qur'an. Anything which is purified of all of these matters is going to be considered as the first one, and is going to be included in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said so. And I remind myself and everyone, we should search for our portion of all verses of the Qur'an. Okay, the most excellent one among us, not the one only recite all Qur'an. I encourage all the audience, to go over the Qur'an, have complete exposure to the all Qur'an. But the second most important step, to try to find yourself where do you stand whenever you recite any of these verses. To look for your portion, from this verse. What benefit you got from it? The worst among us, whenever there is condemned state, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala putting some people down, he feels himself, as if he's not meant. This is not mentioned for him. This is only for Abu Jahl. As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never created anyone except Abu Jahl. We may be in some practices, much worse than Abu Jahl. And that's why we should pay our attention. Where do we stand? What's about ourselves? And when we have this praise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are not as such, but the Salaf, they used to feel sorry, They feel themselves, that they missed this portion, and this is only applicable for the others. It's not applicable for them. And by this, for sure, they are going to get the maximum of all verses that they read in the Holy Quran. And this should be our case. And the other verse, go by the same way. Whoever desires the immediate, we hasten what we will to whomever we will. This has just two more restriction there. Not all of them. To whomever we will and whatever we will. And here you have it regulated. Even though the other verse may sound as if everyone is giving whatever he wants to give. No. You have a lot of limits in this life. Not everyone is going to be given whatever he wants. Even the kafir or the one who seeks this dunya. And to whomever and whatever. And this is by what we call mafhum al-mukhalafa, the opposite of it in the hereafter. Not whatever you want is going to be multiplied 10 times, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep reminding you, you have this, you have that, okay? In another word, you are going to gain, if you are one of those people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are going to gain much more than your expectation. And that's what Imam Malik said. I would like to give good news, for all of us. He said, you are going to observe of the kindness and greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that you never imagine at all. And this is the difference. And here, in this life, we know a lot about those goodies in this life. It's not going to be given to everyone. It's not going to be given completely to someone. Whereas, when you look at the hereafter, again we know a lot about them, not by ourselves, by the Holy Qur'an, by the tradition. We know a lot about the hereafter. Yet, everything you know about the hereafter, you are going to be given much more than it. At least is going to be multiplied 10 times. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu stated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever learns knowledge by which one seeks the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but learns it in order to obtain one of these words, riches, he will not find the scent of paradise on the day of judgment. See? Even he's not going to smell. And in another hadith, the holy smell of the paradise is from very far region, and yet he is much more far than it. Okay. And this makes sense, even though we are fearful of it, but it does make sense, And at least whatever you want to be given, you have been given it. You want the acceptance of the people, you got the acceptance. You want money, you have been given money, okay? You want Allah, this is a different story, okay? And doesn't make any sense, to tell that this person is going to get something that he did not seek to get. This doesn't make sense. That's why in the other hadith, that such type of person, they are going to be the first one to go to hellfire, because he has gotten, whatever he looked forward to get. And that's it, and this is the end of the story. And unfortunately nowadays, because we have some kind people, we have some nice people, we are going to decide as if we are the owners, of the paradise, We are going to give them a room there, This is for so and so, even though this person is not believer, I'm going to give him this room, because he's very nice and very kind, and he know how to deal with people and whatever. See how silly we are? Before giving portions to the other, look for your portion, And before looking to your portion, see how is your relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And this is narrated by Abu Dawood, one of the 6 books. Another hadith, Sayyidina Anas and Sayyidina Hudhayfa and Ka'b ibn Malik, 3 companions, radiallahu anhum, said, whoever, this narrated to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever seeks knowledge so that he cannot fools by with the scholars or attract attention towards himself, occupies his seat in the fire. Okay, and this is narrated by Tirmizi, Imam Tirmizi, in his famous book. Again, this is going to give us other, what we call it, obstacles, of having the second knowledge, and on the top of the second knowledge you have the Holy Qur'an. These I look at them as obstacles, of it. And to be honest with you, most of us, we have all of them inside ourselves. It's not shame to have them inside yourself. The shame to practice them, to go by them, okay? Being created as such, and tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing wrong with this. But we should try to be after yourself all the time. Try to control yourself all the time, not to fool yourself. And it's much, much, much better to feel yourself not good and really bad, and being told, thereafter, no, you are accepted by us, than to be in the opposite pattern, to feel yourself you are a really good person, or whatever, and all of a sudden they'll tell you, you have got all the reward you seek and spend your life for, you have nothing left, your account is zero, because you have taken all your money, all your assets, nothing left for you. Please go to hellfire, and that's it, okay? So here, most of us, we have all of those. When the Prophet ﷺ or in the Holy Quran they are mentioned, we have all of them inside ourselves. If we don't watch ourselves, if we don't try to be behind ourselves, if we are not critics of ourselves, for sure we are going to be affected by these negative, points that have been mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ. Not objecting to students reciting with others. Okay? And this is good sign, Am I working for myself or for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If I'm working for myself, for sure I'm going to feel bad when I have cut down, in my number of students, or some of them, they went to another teacher or whatever. But don't imagine that anyone is going to have it as such, Is going to have reasonable coverage for it. I care about them, because that person, even though he's smart, in Qur'an, but he's not a good person. Or he doesn't know how to recite Qur'an. Or I have seen him one day, going to so and so place, or whatever. And here, the ego, your look, is not going to surrender, this defeat, easily. I am the best one in Quran. How come they went there? I'm going to condemn them, and in the meanwhile, I'm going to give reasonable matter, reasonable explanation to it. I don't care about myself. I care about these poor people. They are going to waste their time there. Or I'm going to put that teacher who is much better than me down, or this or that. And all those matters, they are too tricky. Okay? And by this, I am the servant of the Quran. I don't have any of those credits, you know. I'm a servant of myself, you know. I'm servant of my fame. I'm servant of my ego, and you name it, you know. I'm not servant of the Quran. And here I combine lying, I'm liar. I am combining backbiting and putting the other down, and combine to this, you know, that I speak badly about good people, and you name it. You have a lot of problem, lot of sickness, a lot of disease here needs to be treated. Alhamdulillah, since I am an educated person, I don't have any of these sickness, you know. Sahal ibn Abdullah Tustari and Hudayf al-Marashi, those people, they are really sick, you know, and that's why they spoke about their sickness, you know. But I'm not, I'm cured, alhamdulillah, perfect one. And he explained to us, you know, how, and this may happen, you know, anytime, you know, that some of the students may go to another one. Now, none of us, you know, is close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even in Ghazwat Tabuk, when he was in real need of people, you know, to fight, and when someone will leave, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will tell, leave him alone. If there's any good in him, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make him return back. If he's not good, leave him alone. You don't need him. Okay? And this is for sure, you know, being with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is, you may consider it, you should consider it, you know, as a way of going straight or astray. Either going straight with him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or you astray with him. Yet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not have this, you know, strong, you know, statement, you know, against these people. Leave him alone. If he has anything good, he will come back, you know. Shall we stop here? Okay. Okay, we'll have a break for
2-3 o'clock, inshallah.